What is up, everyone? It is Lovenji Gaming here, and for some reason, Sorry, Sponge's joke completely threw me off. What is up, everyone? It is Lovenji Gaming here, and I am back with another game of Populous at the beginning. This is played on 1.03. It is the map pressure point. It is a 2v2, and as Team 1, playing as the blue tribe in the blue position, we have Team Clan Asgard's Keith52. Can't bloody do this for heck. Keith's ally playing as the Dakini in the Dakini position. It is Gods of Destruction's Loot Hill. Directly opposing Loot Hill, we have Gods of Destruction Spinnifix. And allied to Gods of Destruction Spinnifix, it is No Name, also known as AvA Sponge. I don't know why his name just failed to appear, but that is Sponge. He is playing the role of Spinnifix's ally for this game. 3 of these players will be playing in a tournament game later this very day. So 3 of these players are getting in some good practice. They're getting some warm-ups in. They're going to be doing their very absolute best in hopes that they can refine their strategy, warm themselves up, and bring home a victory for their team. You might already be aware of the Populous beginning 2020 The Giving Tournament. Well, it's got the community hyped. There are 5 games to play. 2 of them have already been played. This game is going to stand to be the 3rd one, with 2 more still to play, and the score as of casting this video is 1-1. So it really is still everything to play for that tournament, and that's why you've got the players practicing as they are. I'm practicing my cast, and I'm making an absolute mess of it. So let's hope I don't do this for the tournament game. So it appears that we've got the standard sort of fanfare for pressure point, in that we've got the early defense down the middle strip. This is a very interesting, aggressive strategy from Loot Hill. I don't think I've ever seen this before, but I'm sure the veteran players have. That's a lot of towers, really pushed out towards the middle. And he's even killed a couple of trees to really push that wood out there, and now he's building plenty of huts. So Loot Hill's making it known that he wants to really be aggressive. He's got 2 Braves here standing around. They cannot secure the wood. This wood belongs to yellow. Well secured. These towers will not finish. He's going to have to manually finish them with plenty of wood. We go over here to look at Spinnifix. Spinnifix is building up. Green is quite a notoriously campy base, but it looks like Spin knows how to build it, and he's building it carefully, albeit slowly. Blue is coming up nicely, of course, as you can see here. Keith52 is building slowly, but not quite as quickly as Loot Hill, though, who has just thrown up hut after hut after hut. Same can be said for Spinnifix, who is also just throwing up hut after hut after hut. Of course, I called this player Spinnifix. This is Sponge. The fact that he has no name is throwing me off, and I will endeavour to remember that for the rest of this cast. So, those of you that are new to Populous, perhaps haven't seen too much of this game, you should have seen this map. This map is in the single player campaign. It is known as Middle Ground in the single player, or Pressure Point among the Populous multiplayer community. It is, in fact, one of the most popular maps. It's one of the hardest maps to play, and loved by the community as a true test of skill. Versus some of the other maps that I brought to the channel, this is probably the hardest of those maps to play, and truly tests players on their ability to work together and overcome their opponents. Now, naturally, you're going to be seeing this kind of build. I don't like this out of green, straight line towers, you know. Hard to take out if the EQ cuts that way, but, you know, EQ's a pure RNG. You could get an EQ that goes along like this, and then all 3 towers are just destroyed. No, I never line up my towers in a perfectly straight line. But it looks like we've got the first earthquake of the game. It is going to be from Spinnifix onto Loot Hill. Loot Hill is doing just fine. His Shaman's a little bit of a problem, but the blast trick's going to keep him alive. He trades more blasts with Spinnifix, and he does go down eventually. So the first Shaman kill of the game is Spinnifix on to Loot Hill, while Keith52 pushes forward with a Tornado. Looks like Tornado damage has been traded here. 2 huts down, 1 there, 1 there. Guard towers even. But nothing of note yet. This EQ's really hurt Spinnifix more than it's helped him, because this actually makes Loot Hill's base much harder to access. As you can see, he's already pushed his defense out quite a lot down on the side strip, and he can actually build all of this out with huts. So he's going for quite a defensive build as Med pushes forward with a Tornado. He seems to have missed the Shaman with it, and his Shaman goes down, so he has died to Keith52, but he's got Warriors pushing in down the middle strip already. It's a good push from Med, getting them out of the range of the Fire Warrior. And they're just going to do a little bit of pop damage. Really, you should have pulled those Warriors back at this point, because they're just going to go down and die now. Braves from Med were meant to slow the Shaman, but not entirely necessary, because Keith wasn't actually trying to do anything with his Shaman at this point. Just check over on this other front. Spinnifix is applying pressure to the front, but as Loot Hill knows, Spinnifix has ruined his chances to get into the base. Oh, very nice Ghost. Distracts all 4 towers. Comes forward with another EQ, and this is how Spinnifix plays the game. He does go down to the towers. They were very quickly shift-clicked onto the Shaman, and now this is a nice path into Red's base for future. Meanwhile, Keith has pushed forward and taken out another guard tower. He's just being annoying. He's just building up his mana. He's not overcommitting. He's playing patiently, making sure as blue he finishes his base. He applies pressure. He tries to secure the mid and hold on to it, but he's not going out before he is too soon. We've got Tornadoes coming out from Loot Hill just to push some of Spinnifix's defense back. The first EQ didn't hurt him too much, but the second one has really lowered the ground height, and it's becoming very easy for Spinnifix to get in. Meanwhile, Keith52 has pushed up onto Med's base. And that's not a bad EQ. Green's notoriously campy, though. It's hard to just ruin Green's day with a single EQ. Very rarely happens. I don't see it happening in this game. Nice little combination of the Ghost Army and the Blast trick to send the Ghost flying further forward to try and chase the Shame. Didn't work, but it was a nice idea. Another Tornado picks up the tower. It doesn't get the Shaman. And the Shamans are going to trade blasts in a duel once again. Loot Hill is alive, but he is in danger. Spinnifix is trying to finish him off, but he has to back off as the tower gets too close for comfort. And now Spinnifix is in a bad position. No, he's fine. He's managed to navigate his way out of it. Meanwhile, Sponge is casting defensive Tornadoes by the looks of it, because that was a green Tornado. Spinnifix is still alive, but he is really on the low ground. He is struggling. He needs to move. I don't know why he stood still. Oh, and a nice blast from Loot Hill sends Spinnifix flying straight into the water. Wonderful play from Keith52 and Loot Hill at the moment. They are applying pressure on both fronts. Sponge has died again. We missed it, but it looks like he's been blasted, and it looks like Loot Hill's moving forward to Earthquake. Spin's defense. It's a nice Earthquake. It gets a tower, it lowers the ground height, it makes it harder to defend that position going forward. Keith52 is pushing forward. He's got his Ghost Army distracting the towers as he throws out a swarm to empty some of them. Loot Hill still alive, taking damage from the Fire Warriors, but not going down. Keith52 is pushing up into the high ground. He gets an EQ in the base just as Green respawns. Is there a lightning from Green? Is there anything from Green? He's just slowly getting pushed back. Doesn't look like it quite yet. Loads of Fire Warriors coming forward from Spinnifix, trying to deal with Loot Hill. Some of them are ghosts. In fact, all of them might have been ghosts. But Loot Hill's keeping the pressure on constantly. He's just throwing out ghosts after ghosts after ghosts. He's not letting Spin's Shaman acquire a sensible position. Constantly under threat, constantly under pressure. Guess that's why this map is called Pressure Point. Here we go. We're starting to see some good land bridges now from Sponge to fix the front and make his position more defensible, but as you heard him call, Keith52's been watched. He's been spotted going mid. This could be the first of the doubles. Keith's either going to take out Sponge's side strip, which is exactly what he's going to do, or he had the opportunity to double Spinnifix. It's important to communicate on a map like this, because as you can see, the middle really opens this map up. Players will be attacking each other constantly and from every angle. And just like that, we take our eyes off the action for a second, and Loot Hill has gone down in a Shaman duel to Spinnifix at the same time. We've got Keith pushing forward. His Ghost Army is once again going to be distracting towers. He needs to do something about this tower here first. Swarm up. Spinnifix is going to try to empty out some of these towers. He needs to throw down some ghosts as well. Yep, there are some ghosts. Spinnifix is alive. He's trying to push in. Yeah, the towers have been shift-clicked onto the Shaman, but he manages to throw his EQ down. Let's see how it does. It's getting worse and worse for Loot Hill because this is getting harder and harder to defend. This is already a really exposed segment of red space, and now, as you can see, Shamans can just go for a walk. Another EQ from Spinnifix. So it looks like Sponge is losing the front. Oh, Spinnifix does go down in that attack, though. Sponge is losing the front against Keith52, but Loot Hill is losing the front against Spinnifix. So this is where the strategical outline of this game will start to take shape, and it will be down to whoever works better. Now, you might see one of two choices, and that will be the losing player will camp and hope that their ally, can win the 1v1. Or, and far more likely with players of this caliber, we're going to be seeing some doubling. Keith52 is going to apply pressure to Sponge and look for an opportunity to attack Spinnifix and really weaken him. Throws out an EQ on Spinnifix's defense and gets a hut for his troubles. That's not bad, you know. Burns down some of the buildings. Warriors going into Loot Hill's defense on the side strip, but Loot Hill's warriors are answering, and Spin is smart. He's saving his pop, he's keeping it alive, he's running it away. Now, if we go and look over onto this front, once again, Keith52 is pushing Sponge in. We're just looking to see what's going on. Once again, we've got Spinnifix pushing in. He just sneaks right in. This is what we were talking about Red's base being naturally weak here. He loses another 2 huts because Spinnifix just walked in with barely any problems. Tornado picks Spinnifix up. Spinnifix does go down, I think. I think Spinnifix died. Yep, there he goes there. Spinnifix dies, and Loot Hill's got the opportunity to push back once again, but these warriors are going to cut into his side. Keith is choosing to 1v1 with Sponge, perhaps at the cost of Loot Hill's life. There are no Fire Warriors into these towers. That's a big mistake from Spinnifix. There are plenty of Fire Warriors over there, but can they get... Wow, that's a nice deep earthquake. Unaga from Loot Hill. Loot Hill's Shaman is still alive. Can she do anything else? No! Spinifix respawns and the Fire Warriors catch her just in time, and the Fire Warrior hut doesn't even go down. That's incredibly lucky for Spinifix. Incredibly dangerous for Loot Hill now. Loot Hill's base is so exposed. It's so vulnerable. These towers aren't even finished. Look at this. He needs to get Fire Warriors in there. Gonna take damage here, says Sponge, and he's probably right. But it's who can do more damage now? Players have camped in, and it's become a 1v1 on both fronts. Very little teamwork going on at the moment. EQ from Spinifix, and an EQ from Keith52, and Spinifix is definitely getting the better of this team with this trade. Spinifix does go down, which is nice to see, but Keith pulled off an absolutely awful attack. With all those Ghost Warriors not being able to get in against a couple of towers is a bit of a shame. Truly diabolical, especially when you've got these Warriors tearing down Loot Hill's entire side strip. The mid belongs to Team 2 now. There's been very little teamwork between Keith52 and Loot Hill. At the moment, it's just a 1v1 and a 1v1. We'll see if that starts to change. We've got swarms coming out from Sponge, distracting the Braves trying to build the towers, and he's looking to make a push of his own. Keith's got warriors near the side strip, but they're not going to help against Spinifix's warriors. Because oh, nice shot from Keith. He gets a very nice light, but not before Sponge casts the EQ on the defense. It's pretty poor, but hey, it's better than nothing. At least he's finally managed to get out of his base and make something happen. Meanwhile, we've got Loot Hill pushing up once again. He's going up this strip. It is just a 1v1 and a 1v1, and what a lightning from Loot Hill. He gets Spinifix directly. Spinifix goes down, and this could be the end of his reign over Loot Hill. One very well-placed light, and it's just in time for the double. There was me saying there's been very little teamwork so far, and now we're getting the perfect example of the teamwork. There's a Shaman coming in from both sides. If even one of these Shamans gets in, it could be dangerous for Spinifix, but with the amount of mana that the players have, well, Keith more than Loot Hill, who we can see only has an Earthquake. This could be incredibly devastating for yellow. Sponge needs to make something happen. He's just respawned. He's fixing his land with a land bridge. He's going to attack blue now. We've got 1 earthquake from blue. 2 earthquakes from blue. They're not particularly deep, so this couldn't be the end of the world. Yeah, that's barely any damage, actually. We got an earthquake from red? No. No earthquake from red, so that actually, for what it was, barely did anything. Meanwhile, we've got green pushing forward. Gets a really nice EQ onto blue's defense. These warriors, they need to stop praying and start charging, and there they go. Fire warriors have been clicked onto the shaman. Looks like Sponge is looking to make a push. Another EQ on the high ground. He's just going to take out blue's turtle defense. There is a warrior of reds in yellow's base, but really, what could have been an amazing strategical play was just lacking in execution. Keith wasted his earthquakes on what was essentially the edge of Spinnifix's base and got barely anything for it. Meanwhile, if you look at the state of Loot Hill's base, it's been absolutely devastated. And Sponge is actually not doing too bad either. Wow, very nice kill from Loot Hill onto Spinnifix's Shaman, but not before Spinnifix throws out another EQ. Each of these EQs is lowering the height of the ground. It's making red space easier and easier to get in. The warriors are charging forward, but Spinnifix needs to see this. He needs to turn these warriors around because the Shaman's just going to blast them all into the water just like that. Keith is struggling on the other side. He managed to kill Med, who was attacking, but now he's got to clear up these warriors. He's got barely any defense at the front now. T1 is really struggling to get out of their base. They've gone from winning on one front and losing on the other to losing on both fronts. But this could change. Loot Hill is pushing forward. He throws out another EQ onto Spinnifix's defense, but these are just EQs onto defense. These are not effective EQs. These are not game-deciding EQs. Players of this caliber are more than effective at replenishing their defense, so you're going to get very little done with this. Lowering the height of the ground is a strategic advantage, but only for a short amount of time before it gets absolutely coated in towers. We've got Fire Warriors being shot. Loot Hill throwing out another light. Loot Hill's actually got no attacking spell, so he doesn't even get Spinnifix with that kill. Spinnifix was on fire, but not dead. That means he was doing a tile transition as the light struck. But I don't know why Loot Hill's even pushing forward to try and kill Spinnifix. He's got no spells. He's got 4 blasts and soon to have a light. You can bet Spinnifix has way more mana. Spinnifix has been in a dominant position. We see a lightning from Med find Keith52, which means once again Keith's exposed. Keith hasn't even replenished his defense. He's just now building backup guard towers, but they're too little too late if the Fire Warriors don't get in there quickly. We've got Spinnifix pushing up into red at the same time that green is pushing up into blue. Lots of damage could be coming down here. Tornado clears up one of the towers. Let's see what he does. Idling in the range of the Fire Warriors is not smart, but he gets pushed and he gets to throw out an EQ for it. His Shaman's still alive and throws out a secondary EQ as well. Meanwhile, Loot Hill makes a play for the middle. He's trying to get Spinnifix down the middle strip. Keith actually goes down a second time. Keith just dying constantly. Spinnifix doesn't find the kill onto Loot Hill, and Loot Hill, in fact, actually manages to answer with a kill of his own. In fact, it wasn't Keith52 that died. It was, in fact, Sponge's Shaman that died. I do apologize. What we were looking at here was a ghost shaman, and it fooled me. So we got plenty of warriors here. They're having quite a nice little skirmish. Going to take down Spinnifix's side strip, tear it apart. Start to open up Spinnifix. Fortunately, Spinnifix had a secondary warrior hut, but Keith52 is really starting to lose his front now. Loot Hill is winning out in the shaman duels, but for how long? We will have to see. Looks like we're trading some lights here. Keith52 does not get Med the first time, but he does get him the second time. Meanwhile, Spinnifix manages to clear up Loot Hill, and that means he gets to push the troops out of his base and answer with an attack of his own. But currently, Loot Hill has secured the middle ground. And it looks like Keith52 is going to make a push. Black IE on the towers. There's not going to be much damage done to Sponge here, but it sets up the stage for future earthquakes. Keith's base there's a giant hole in it, more or less, and we've got a pause. Square brackets has paused the game. No explanations as to why the pause is going down. But that is because we're the other team, so he might be using team chat. But this is a great time to take stock of all the bases that are currently in play. As you can see, Red's base at the back is still fine. He's got 2 Fire Warrior huts, 2 Warrior huts. Back of the base is upgraded, the middle of the base not so much, and he's lost these huge plots of building land purely to Spin's aggressive push. We take a look at Blue's base. We've got 1 Warrior hut, 1 Fire Warrior hut. Not very much troop production out of Keith52, and no defense here. This is a gigantic hole in his base that could come back to bite him. He's certainly in no position to be doing any doubling anytime soon. Med's base is pretty much built and finished. He lost a little bit here at the front, and his huts at the back could do with some loving attention as they're not upgrading. Spinnifix took some damage here. 2 EQs from Keith52 didn't do that much. It took out a Warrior hut and ruined some of this building land, but and Spinnifix is looking a little defense light, to be fair. Oh, there's a Fire Warrior from Sponge stuck at the back of Spin's base. And Spin's just finishing up upgrading the back of his huts now. So, looking at the state of the map, looking at the state of the teams, I would give Team 2 an edge. Even though it seemed like Keith was running away with his pressure on Sponge, that double really cost him, because now he's got no defense. Sponge is pushing in constantly, and even finding the occasional kill. Loot Hill Spinnifix has been more competitive than I thought. Loot Hill's pretty much managed to pull himself back into the fight against Spinnifix entirely off of his own work, because Keith's double really didn't get very much. The Fire Warriors managed to find Keith, but Keith does survive. He's dizzy, but not dead. Spinnifix is still alive and pressuring the front of Loot Hill's base. Meanwhile, Loot Hill is alive and going for a magical journey. And in fact, Spinnifix goes down. Loot Hill's not paying attention. His Shaman's here, there, and everywhere, and yet Spinnifix manages to die. Loot Hill's Warriors try to do a run by, but they get picked up by Spinnifix's Warriors. These towers are going to be rebuilt and the defense re-established for Spinnifix, but it's good to see Team 1 lashing back and pushing out. Meanwhile, we've got Sponge at the middle. This is not where I would send your Shaman. But I guess if you want to go there and die to Keith52, that's absolutely fine. That's your strategical decision to make. And it looks like Keith52 is going to go for another double. This is exactly why I would not have gone there if I was green, because now Keith has the opportunity to get into Spinnifix's base and double him. Whereas Keith was very exposed. He had no defense. You could force Keith to answer you here by proposing a trade. Send Fire Warriors to mid, hold down the mid position, and then go into Keith's base with your spells. Loot Hill is charging a Firestorm instead of Earthquakes, so it looks like they're coordinating this attack, which is good to see that level of coordination. A light comes out from Spinnifix. It doesn't find the kill. Both Shamans are currently attacking Spinnifix. It's down to Spinnifix to try and hold the ground. You can see Luke flying around in the background, but he's not dead. Keith52 has to back off and take the high ground. It's good that Spinnifix is not overcommitting to either side of the defense. He's hovering between the two middle positions very nicely, and yeah, there you go. Keith's recognized that Sponge is alive, and he has to make a decision now. Does he go back to his base, or does he go for the trade? In fact, he's actually going to try and attack Sponge, and we know that's not going to go too well for Keith52. Keith's not exactly the best attacker in the game. But the loss of pressure, and this is what we were talking about. Sponge can now just walk into this base because there's no defense. Why are you trading, Keith? You don't have control of your own base to do something like this. There were Fire Warriors in huts. 1 Earthquake. Do we see in a second? There's a second Earthquake. Those are 2 very deep Earthquakes and very damaging ones. Keith52 tried to bait out the Fire Warriors in huts, but it didn't work. Meanwhile, we've got Spinnifix with an army of warriors. There's so many warriors. He's going to force Loot Hill to answer the warriors. Loot Hill does have a Firestorm. We could see the Firestorm, and a Firestorm does come out from Keith52. Yet the Firestorm comes out from Loot Hill to kill all those warriors. Loot Hill manages to kill Spinnifix's Shaman, who says wow, and Keith52 actually manages to get in the base with the assistance of a Firestorm. And that's a good amount of damage, although Keith52 does go down. Damage has been dealt across the board to all players. I certainly don't know who's in the favoured position right now. I'd still probably say Team 2, just because of how exposed Keith is. You know, Sponge has plenty of land that he can rebuild and retower, whereas Keith's base basically has a giant hole that says enter here. Meanwhile, we have Loot Hill pushing forward. Spinnifix really needs to regain his control over this matchup and maybe help Sponge remove Keith from the game. But at the moment, there's too much pressure. Plenty of fighting going on all fronts. It's been an absolutely intense game. And if this sets up what the tournament game is going to be like, I cannot wait to cast it. I'll tell you that much right now. Even if my throat's getting a little bit sore from 26 minutes of non-stop talking. Except for that little bit of pausing, because that little bit of pausing was great. I got a break from that. Here we go. We have Sponge pushing forward. Throws out a light, misses Keith52. The Brave holds Sponge still long enough for Keith to retaliate with an S-click of his own. Sponge goes down. There's very little defense on this side, and Keith is probably going to push in with this base. Plenty of Braves charging forward. Vunaga, Taka. All the spells from the Shaman being thrown out to get her into the base. Oh, Keith almost gets pushed into the water. Very almost gets pushed into the water. It's a very precarious position. Lights are getting traded, and once again, Loot Hill comes out on top. It's very weird, because it felt like Team 2 has had control of this game, but Team 1 have just dueled Shaman better. Lakai, 2 Earthquakes on the same spot. I don't like that, but pros say you can do it. There's 1, there's 2. Yeah, see, I would have liked to have separated them. 1 here, 1 here. But what would I know? I'm not very good at this game. Meanwhile, we've got Loot Hill pushing up here. Spinnifix should be back any second now to take out Loot Hill and stop his push. And yep, there you go. Spinnifix is back. Loot Hill is alive. He needs to back off. The lightning doesn't quite find him. He's got warriors pushing into Sponge's base at the exact same time, while Spinnifix is kind of just stood around doing nothing, let's be honest. Very little action coming out of Spinnifix at the moment. Probably controlling his troops. Making sure he builds his defense. Shaman starts to push down. Plenty of nice high ground for Sponge to camp. Green is a notoriously campy base, and we've got ruined trees. Does Keith fix them? Does he help? Oh, he goes for it. Tornado from Sponge. And we've got Lambridge from Spin fixing the path. Looks like we've got push out on both fronts. We've got to keep an eye on what's going on both fronts here. And an Earthquake from Spinnifix at the front of the base is going to take out these 2 huts, hopefully. Lightning from Loot Hill does not find Spinnifix. It does take out those 2 huts, though. Spin answers with a light of his own, and Loot Hill retaliates, but neither of the Shamans go down in that trade. Sponge is smart enough to just do a little bit of damage and then back off just enough. He's making sure that he is applying pressure to a front while managing his base. But Keith52 thinks he detects him staying still. There's a little bit of moving forward. Trading of lights, fantastic. Neither Shaman dies. What have we got? Lambridge from Spinnifix. Spinnifix sees an opportunity to attack. He's going wide. He's going to the side. We've got an Earthquake from Loot Hill into Spinnifix's base. So they are proposing the trade. Very exciting. We've got even more trading going on here while Keith52 is still alive, as is Loot Hill. But something needs to happen because the warriors are going to go into Spinnifix's base and they are going to cause all manner of damage. Spinnifix has recognized it and he's actually pulling back to answer the warrior push. His Shaman gets there just in time. The swarm sends the warriors running around the blast, picking them up, clearing them out. Lambridge is from Keith52, provided plenty of space for him to build. Loot Hill tries to pick out the Shaman with a light, but doesn't quite find any success. Oh, that was so close from Loot Hill. Very nice shot, but didn't quite find the mark. Loot Hill has 1 Earthquake left, but no lights. He's in a very intense Shaman duel right now, but as we can see, Loot Hill's pop is sitting at a very nice 145. That is a good level of pop to have. This has been an absolutely cracking game, actually. Been absolutely amazed that it didn't just end immediately. Started off really strong for Team 2, but now I would give the edge to Team 1. Loot Hill's defense has practically been unbreakable where we thought he was going to be a weak point. Spin has just lost control of the matchup, and that's allowed Keith to regain control of the Sponge matchup, and now they're winning on both fronts. Keith is expanding, he's increasing his population, and in fact he's going for a... Is he expanding? He might just be expanding, but he could also be going for a side. Both Shamans go down in that trade. If you didn't tell from the double death animation, Spinnifix and Loot Hill both dead, so it's down to who does more with their troops and what happens with the Shamans on this front. It's good. Sponge has identified that Keith is expanding at the back of his base and is pushing forward to clear up some of this defense. trying to remake the hole that already existed in green space, in blue space even. Meanwhile, there's a huge swarm of warriors over here. It's absolutely intense game of pressure point. I'm doing my voice in before the tournament. How ridiculous is this? The swarm of warriors are looking to take control of the middle ground. They need to be spread out a little bit better because remember, fire warriors deal AoE damage, and all these warriors stacked up on that, they'll kill a fire warrior quickly, but they're all taking damage. Look at how many of them are dizzy already. Really bad use of troops from Spinnifix. You don't expect to see it from a player of Spinnifix's caliber. Meanwhile, Loot Hill is alive and pushing down the middle strip towards Spinnifix. Sponge is still just patrolling his shaman in circles at the front. We need something decisive to come out from Sponge. He can't just let Team 1 expand. Nice shot from Spinnifix. We missed it, but he manages to kill Loot Hill, and that puts pressure onto Loot Hill's base. Meanwhile, Keith gets a light onto Sponge, so we've got either side. Another base trade. Spinnifix has to make something happen, and the warriors are coming. And as you can see, Spinnifix is playing patiently, but he needs to watch his shaman, because that's a lot of fire warriors. He didn't watch his shaman! He was too busy controlling his warriors. He left his shaman in a really dumb position. Loot Hill throws his warriors into Sponge's base to try and distract some of these fire warrior towers, while Keith pushes. Gets shot by 1 or 2 fire warriors, but at the same time, Sponge respawns and is up alive. Earthquakes onto the defense, as is typical when it's too late to continue the attack. Keith does go down, and his EQs don't do terribly much. Nothing that certainly can't be fixed. All these warriors from Spinnifix. Finally, they're starting to spread out and do some damage to Keith securing the high ground. Sending warriors over to probably clear up Loot Hill's warriors. Meanwhile, Loot Hill is pushing forward. Spinnifix is alive. Loot Hill is also alive. Got an EQ from Loot Hill to clear up some of this defense. Affect the shape of the strip a little bit more. Warriors from Spinnifix are pushing into Keith52's base. They're hoping to get a good amount of damage and tear down this side strip, and hopefully they'll be able to. That's a lot of warriors, and they're being put to use, and it looks like Spinnifix was thinking about the trade, but he's not going to go for it. He's actually answering Loot Hill in the end. Lightning from Loot Hill. Loot Hill was paying attention. He is watching Spinnifix carefully. Spinnifix throws down the land bridge to make sure he is not knocked into the water. Loot Hill goes flying. Gets an amazing light, but Spinnifix answers with a light of his own. Both shamans are dead. Meanwhile, Sponge has come forward and throws down 2 EQs, but not before Keith manages to hit him with a light. Plenty of warriors still alive for Spinnifix. Watch warriors, says Sponge. Spinnifix is aware his warriors are already on the way. But that is a lot of warriors from Loot Hill. It's great to see the troop pressure being applied. These warriors will win you a game if you use them right. Keith getting bullied by ghosts, being pushed here, there, and everywhere while he's trying to find a way into Green's base. These towers are finished, but they've got no fire warriors in them. That's it. Well done, Sponge. You got a fire warrior in there almost immediately. That's what we like to see. And Spinnifix lost quite a few of his warriors in using them so much and not allowing them to recover their hit points. So now their warriors, those warriors are feeling pretty weak. Meanwhile, we've got Keith52. Throws down an EQ. It's okay. Again, Sponge is just going to fix that with a land bridge. If you didn't know, a land bridge is cheaper than an earthquake, so trading a earthquake for a land bridge, not the best thing in the world, especially because your opponent's probably still sat on their earthquake. But plenty of pushing going on. I'd like to see this strip covered in towers. In fact, that looks exactly like what Spinnifix is doing. He is, in fact, building towers on here. I would also land bridge here just to give me a nice wide strip of towers, because at the moment, you can't cover this in towers, and it's very easy for Loot Hill to land bridge over and launch an attack. Meanwhile, Keith52 is trying to fix his own base. He's pushing out. This is what Sponge and Spinnifix need to be careful of. You know, this team has expanded, which means they are going to have higher mana. If you do not apply pressure to them quickly, you need to at the very least expand yourself so you can match them mana for mana. Doesn't matter if you play awfully when you've got more mana to burn, because you can just waste mana here, there, and everywhere. And there you go. There's the land bridge from Spinnifix that we said we'd like to see. He threw it from the tower, so he got maximum range and good height from it as well. We can hear warriors clearing up Loot Hill's control of the middle strip, which is about what we'd want to see. Yeah, we're seeing even more defensive Lambridges coming out of the players now. This is actually harder to cast than a CES game because at least there's less to watch in a CES game. Lights being traded, lights being missed from both Shamans, and is it the same on this side? It looks like it. Both Shamans are still alive. Sponge is alive. Keith is alive. Loot Hill is alive. Spinnifix is alive. And we're just getting a reset point now where all the players fix their defense. And we're going to reset back to, well, this point of who gets into whose base first. And that's really where it starts to hurt Team 2 that they haven't expanded, because as the base is reset and Keith's base stops being exposed at the front, it's got all that extra mana at the back. Alright, I missed a little bit of action there, trying to arrange the co-caster for tonight's tournament game. But we've got Blast coming out, and a very nice light from Loot Hill finds a kill onto Spinnifix. Meanwhile, we have Keith52 pushing up into Sponge's base as well, and the edge is definitely in favour of Team 1 at this point. Loot Hill is pushing forward. He throws out an EQ and then Lambridges, which I'm not sure what the point is. What the point of that is, and then he dies in a very ridiculous way while he's controlling his warriors. Sometimes in Populous, it feels like there's a lot more to do than you have hands to do it. Keith has also died, which means Sponge is answering with a counter-attack of his own. Lightnings are going to be used on one of the towers to get him slightly further in. The EQ doesn't really do anything. If you're wondering why there's no lava from the EQ, this is a 1.3 game. I did open the game by telling you that they were playing on 1.3. 1.3 is the base version of the game. It's a community patch that is not the beta build of the game that we use in some of our other games, especially games that I'm playing. They tend to be in beta. And what that has is an object overload limit. What that means is that when there's 2,000 objects present at any given time, certain effects or even spells won't load. Pressure Point is a map that is notorious for hitting this object limit. And now that players have started seeing their lava not spawning, it's in every player's mind right now that object overload is going to be a thing. We see a nice light from Spinnifix get land directly onto Loot Hill, but then Spinnifix dies in the most ridiculous way. He's not even paying attention. He knows that that was a dumb way to die because he's typing lol. Keith52, meanwhile, is making much more headway into Sponge's base. Sponge's defense was once very impressive, and now it looks a little bit sad. He's got more towers spread out over more land than he has huts. You know, he's really backed into a corner. I would like to have seen him try to expand himself a little bit, because right now he's competing with Keith52. And we've got the back door. The Ghost Shaman on the mid manages to fool Sponge, and this is a back door from Sponge. Does Sponge even see it? No, Sponge doesn't see it, or he does, and he's so committed that he's not running his pop. He needs to run his population. He's running out of time. One more land bridge will complete the back door. Too scutsy. Sponge sees it, but this is way too late, Sponge. And he goes down in his own attack. He doesn't even get any counter damage onto Keith52, and this is it. Keith52 is in Sponge's base. The Firestorm is going to send the pop running everywhere. This back door is going to cause absolute havoc. The warriors are running around, but remember, they are not taking damage from the Firestorm. Meanwhile, we have Loot Hill killing Spinnifix. This could be GG, because Sponge is running his pop into Spinnifix's base, and that's exactly where Loot Hill is attacking. Object overload is a heck of a thing, however. Your pop, says Spinnifix. Your pop. Move your pop. Loot Hill is coming for it. God. Yeah, and Sponge manages to move his pop, runs it back, but now we've got all sorts of havoc. The only bases that the only large huts that Sponge had left were at the back of his base, and Keith is now attacking them directly. You always have to be mindful of this when there's shamans expanding like that. And yes, Spinnifix calls the GG. He dies consecutively against Loot Hill. Team 1 are going to take this game, and it's up to Loot Hill to kill all this beautiful, beautiful pop. Will we see some brave blasting? Blast. 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 Earthquake. Blast. Blast. Yeah, all of Sponge's pop is gone. Absolute chaos, absolute destruction, absolute death. Team clean sweep for the win, says Sponge, throwing out a reference to tonight's tournament game, which will be happening in an hour from when I finish this game's cast. Obviously, I'll upload these videos in YouTube in a different order. That was a shame to BD, says Sponge. I was enjoying our battle. Well, you were losing it, Sponge. It was a strategic decision, and team clean sweep. They pull out a victory. I didn't think they would for a while, but they did. In fact, eventually pull their teamwork together. PP is the worst man. Hate it. Wow. Sponge saying he hates the community's best map. Just not good. Oh, Spinnifix killing his pop. Very nice plan. Kills Loot Hill, then kills his own pop. We got land bridges here, there, and everywhere for Keith52. He's just gonna play SimCity and fix his base and make it nice and pretty. Whoop, Sponge. Nicely done, Sponge. What are you gonna do with it, Sponge? It's good to see you get into Keith's base, but well, that's what he's gonna do with it. He's gonna fall in the water. That is the end of this game. The winner is Keith52 and Loot Hill. Team 1. They had a very rough start, let's be honest. We all watched the first 26 minutes of the game and it was looking bad for them, but they pulled it back in the second half. Quitting for speed, GG. That's fine. We're just waiting to see Spinnifix die now at this point. What does Spinnifix have left? He must have Braves in a hut somewhere, hiding them. I hear a fight sound. There he is. There he is. Is this the last guy? Is this? Yeah, there we go. That is the end of this game. Keith52 and Loot Hill are your winners. They take down Sponge and Spinnifix.